Good morning, everyone. It's Wednesday, which means it's time for another Road to 100 weigh-in update. I'll be honest, this week, it's not one of those big dramatic scale drop weeks. No huge number, no massive reveal. No, I can't believe this happened moment. This week, the scale barely moved. But the question I had to ask myself was this still progress? Because I think a lot of us, especially when we're trying to lose a lot of weight, get stuck believing that progress only counts if the scale gives us permission to feel good about it. And this week, I had to remind myself that there's more to this journey than just a number on the one morning. So let's get into it. So this week's weigh-in came in at 283 pounds even. That means I'm down 0.2 pounds. I'm not going to pretend that's exciting. When you step on the scale and the drop of 0.02, your first reaction is usually something like, really, that's it? Especially when you know you put the work in. But here's the thing. Since January 1st, I started at 316.4 pounds, and I'm currently down 33.4 pounds total. Since the start of that Pro Physique challenge that I did, and I was 300, I'm down 17 pounds. I didn't do great in the challenge because I wasn't able to lift because of my shoulder injury, but I still went through it and proceeded, but wasn't super happy with the mounts because I wasn't able to put on the muscle. And even though this particular week was almost flat, the bigger picture is that I'm still moving in the right direction. And that's something that I need to remember, because if in the journey by day one, weekly weigh-in, I'm going to miss all the other signs that things are actually changing. Looking at my body composition numbers, most things stayed pretty much the same this week. Weight was down 0.02, BMI was down 0.1, body fat stayed the same, muscle mass stayed the same, visceral fat stayed the same. So on paper, it looks like not much happened. But I've learned not to put too much emotional weight into every single body composition reading. They can be useful for trends, but they're not perfect. Hydration, food, sodium, timing, inflammation, workouts, sleep, and even how your body is holding water can all affect what shows up on the scale. So instead of getting frustrated, I looked at the rest of the data, and that's where this week kind of gets interesting. So over the last 7 days, I averaged about 16,734 steps a day. That's around 11.7 kilometers a day. And for the full week, that works out to roughly over 117,000 steps for the week. That's not nothing. That's not being lazy. That's not a failed week. It's not a week where I sat around and hoped the scale would do magically something special for me. I moved a lot. And this is where I think I have to be careful, because in the past, if the scale barely moved, I probably would have looked at things differently and, more disappointment than anything else. But I've learned to actually just overcome that as long as things are still moving forward. But when I look at 117,000 steps, this number tells me that I'm still staying active. It tells me that I keep showing up and that I kept building on habits that are going to eventually get me to my goal weight. And honestly, I think that's probably the biggest win that I have for this week is just staying active and keeping my nose down and doing work. I also got in another 5K run for this week, trying to get my times better. I did a 5.41 kilometers at about 48 minutes with an average pace of about 8 minutes and 52 seconds. I'm not breaking Olympic records here. Nobody from Team Canada has found me yet, but for where I am right now, it's progress. My goal is, in the next little bit, is to get my 5K down to about a 7-minute kilometer pace, so I can get it to about 35, and overall, a bigger goal of getting it to 5 kilometers in 30 minutes. So my heart rate was good. It was an average moderate, stayed at about 117 beats per minute. So sort of tells me that I have a little bit more left in the tank to go out, and had decent results with the elevation, because I do live in a hilly kind of area. So my cardio is getting better. It's handling the work better. My recovery is improving, and I'm starting to feel better and have a better base for when I'm starting out and starting these runs. So this week reminded me that weight loss is not always a straight line. Sometimes you put the work in and the scale drops. Other times you put the work in and everything barely moves. and sometimes you put the work in and the scale goes up. So this was kind of the middle of the road where I barely changed any of the numbers, yet still put the work in. You want to say, hey, good job, here's 2 pounds, but your body doesn't always work on your schedule. Sometimes it holds water, sometimes it's recovering, sometimes your sleep habits weren't the best, and sometimes fat loss is happening inside, but you don't really see it reflecting on the scale. So I try to make sure that I push myself mentally through this, because I know it's a long journey, and that's why I think it's more important to track how you're feeling and how your body's adapting than just tracking your weight alone. Because if I only looked at the 0.2 pounds, I'd probably call this a bad week, which I think I still had a decent week. So what am I taking from this week? Well, I'm going to keep focusing on the habits that keep me moving forward. Walking, running, getting my protein in, making sure I'm eating okay, staying consistent, not letting the one number sort of throw me off the rails and ruin a week. Because the truth is, I don't need to be perfect every week. And as of tomorrow, I'm going fishing for 3 days with my buddies, and my diet's probably not going to be perfect. I'm going to still try and walk every morning and get my steps in. I'm still not drinking at all, so bringing a whole bunch of zero alcohol beers for the trip and some Coke Zeros. So I know I'm going to take a little bit of ribbing by my friend, but that is what it is. It's just trying to stay true to yourself and what you're trying to do. So just keep stacking the good weeks, and this was a good week. I feel okay about the 0.2, but I really want to start lifting again, and I think once I start lifting and getting some metabolically active muscle increase, I think the weight's going to continue to come off a little bit quicker. So I wanted to say thanks again for tuning in here, guys. If you like what you see, please do like and subscribe. It does help the algorithm. If you have any comments, if you're feeling anything, or if you're on your own road to your own journey, please feel free to comment below. I definitely will answer every comment. And I put content out every week, sometimes twice a week, but looking forward to getting next week's video in, and hope everybody has a strong week. Take care, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.